Hey everyone, welcome to the Middle School Visual Arts PLC group. My name is Alicia Montgomery and I am the moderator for this group. I am so glad that you've joined our community. It was created with you in mind. Our goal is to collaborate and support each other through this craziness of teaching visual arts to middle schoolers. Whether you are the only one in your system or one of many, I know that we're going to give you some things that will help you. In order to make this as beneficial as possible for everyone, be sure to set up your notifications and check back often to see posts, discussions, and support that will be showcased. And please engage in our discussion questions. It's really helpful for everybody to see different points of view. In this professional learning video, we're going to talk a little bit about some project ideas for mini labs and some of the things that I do to kind of get the year or this quarter started off right. One of the first things that I do is like a materials experimentation lab. It just takes us a class period, about 60 minutes. I have 5 different stations. I have watercolor, colored pencil, oil pastels, chalk pastels, and tempera paint. And students will either have a worksheet or we'll do this in their sketchbooks, and they'll go around to each station and just kind of, for about 5 minutes, play with the materials that are at that station. Because a lot of my students have never used anything other than just colored pencils or crayons. So we're going to kind of play around with those things. Some other materials that you'll need for this project are paintbrushes, Q-tips, or they could use their fingers. I cover the counters with newspapers so it's really easy to clean up, and baby wipes for their hands at each station so they can just wipe their hands off really quickly before going to the next station for the ones that they need to use their hands for. One of the first stations is the watercolor station. So at that station, I just have paintbrushes, a water bucket, a watercolor tray, and then I always put a little sign that says what station it is. So when they're working in their sketchbooks or from their worksheet, they can label it, make sure they're at the right place. And then I also always put where they're going next. That just helps guide them around the room, and it keeps me from having to ask 500 questions about where do I go next? What are we doing next? And so at this station, this is just a really fun introductory activity for watercolor. They just wet their paintbrushes, add a little water to their watercolor tray, and then they do 4 little activities. They paint one box with a lot of water, so it makes it really light. Paint one box with just a little bit of water. They paint one box where they combine 2 colors together. And then the 4th box, they get to do whatever they want to with that media in that little space. So they can use their fingers, they can paint a little smiley face, whatever they want to do in that box. So it just gives them a little bit of freedom to try something that they want to with those experiments. The next station that we have is the tempera station. At that station, we have just a water bucket and paintbrushes, and I just do 2 little plastic cups with 2 different colors of tempera paint, and they can pick whichever ones they want to use. Then again, we do 4 little activities. The first one, they paint with 1 color. The second one, they will use Q-tips and just put some little dots on their box. The third one, they will mix the colors, and then the 4th one is their choice. The next station would be their color pencil stations, and that one I just use at their assigned seats. I have 5 groups, so that's just a good way for them to do that. And so they go to their color pencil stations. We color with one color really lightly, color with the same color really with a lot of pressure. We blend 2 colors together, and then they get to draw whatever they want to in the 4th section. And then next, they would go to the oil pastel station. At the oil pastels, I do go ahead and cover the counter with newspaper because they do get them all really messy and all over their hands, and then they wipe it on the counter. So that just helps with cleanup later. Again, they color with it really lightly, color with a lot of pressure, mix them together, and then draw whatever they want to in the last box. And then the next place they go is to the chalk pastels. Most of my students are really surprised at how messy these are because they think they're going to be just like chalk that they can draw on a chalkboard with. They don't realize how much dust and smearing comes along with these. So it's interesting to see them do this. But again, it's very much like the oil pastels. Do one color really lightly, color in a shape, with a lot of pressure, mix two colors together, and then whatever they want to in that last box. So that's a really fun project that they really like to do. Another project that I do with my students is just a really quick elements and principles mini labs. We do a little name project. Another project that I do is Storigami, and we focus on line, shape, form, and symmetrical balance. We do a color pencil techniques intro just to kind of talk about how to use color pencils, how to blend those together, just some different techniques that they can use. So a lot of my students don't know that there's a right way to draw with your color pencils. And then the last little mini lab we do is just a little Zentangle activity. That usually takes a couple of class periods. So another one that we do is a name project. So we start on the front of their sketchbooks and they draw their name, and then we divide it into sections. And we do a section where they draw different types of lines. We talk about what those are, vertical, horizontal. We do a section where they draw different shapes, and we talk about the difference between geometric shapes and organic shapes, and they draw some of those in each space. We talk a little bit about value, and then they color in that space with a value scale. We talk about color, and then they can just color in that space, or they can draw things that are the color that they choose. And then the last one we do is texture. So we draw just a couple of examples of different textures. Another project we do to help introduce our elements and principles of art is Storigami. And so this is a form of origami, but you use a story to remember the different folds and things that you do with it. So we go through the story and we do two little projects. We do a penguin and we do a boat. And we talk about, before they start with their origami, it starts with just a square, which is a shape because it's two-dimensional. And then we're going to transform it into a form, which is three-dimensional. We talk about height and width and depth. And we talk about those geometric forms and organic forms as well, just like there are with shapes. And another technique that I started doing is this colored pencil mini lab, because I was seeing that a lot of my students didn't know how to use basic color pencil techniques or knew how to color with any kind of craftsmanship. So I wanted to make sure they knew what a high level of craftsmanship was and what I expected with that. And that way I could always refer back to that. Remember when we did this, that's the way that I want you to color. So this activity also helps me to see which students have challenges with motor skills. So I can start working on some differentiation ideas for those, any modifications I need to make for students with those. So we talk about value with this as being one of our elements of art. We talk a little bit about shading. And so they have different areas. They use light pressure in some of them. They use a heavy pressure in some of them. We do some hatching and cross hatching. We do linear coloring, circular coloring. We do a little value scale. We blend two colors together. And I limit them to blue, yellow, black, and white are the four colors that we use just to make it easier to explain how to do things. Otherwise, they want to use like pink, and then it's harder to get them to do the shading as middle schoolers with that. And then we talk a little bit about how to shade three-dimensionally and how to do tints and shades using black and white. And then the last one that we do where we kind of implement all of our elements of art is we just do a simple little Zentangle cube. I give them some sheets that have different patterns on them. We talk about how they can change and modify those to make them their own. And then we practice some sketches in their sketchbooks, and then I just give them a little template that I print out, and then they draw in the boxes for each side, and then we fold it up and glue it. So that's kind of the mini labs that we start off with and how they start learning the elements and principles of art, so we can talk more about those as we start working on our bigger projects. Well, thank you for joining me today. I hope you participate in our discussion and have a great day.